Hi everyone, Rob Glass here, Superintendent of Bloomfield Hills Schools, and I'm delighted to be with you for another edition of Ask Rob. We've had a great success with our students this first semester. We want to celebrate all their hard work. We want to thank all of our teachers for the great work that they've done to help our students be successful. Way to buckle down, students, and put on that final push. And now we enter a second semester, and I know that everyone here is ready and willing to help every student achieve at their absolute highest levels. One of the things I'm excited about heading into this second semester is the fact that we're going to be opening our brand new auditorium. And we have a special red carpet event to celebrate that on February 11th at 6:30 p.m. The public is welcome. We're going to celebrate the arts. We're going to celebrate this new auditorium with the opening night of West Side Story. We have a great big cast performing for the first time ever for the public on our new stage. You are going to love it. We want to be able to share that with you, our public, our parents, our taxpayers. We're excited about this new opportunity. So come on out and join us. And so another thing I want to talk about, I'm going to quote a couple well-known folks today in this edition of Ask Rob, because I've had some interesting thoughts about these quotes over the last couple days. The first is one from Mark Twain, who said, "No man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session." And I know he was saying it tongue-in-cheek, and I by no means really want to disparage our legislators and our politicians. I know they work very hard on our behalf, and we elect them, so their work is a reflection of us. But putting that kidding aside, there was a recent law that was passed and signed by the governor that I'm very displeased about and have made no bones about. And it is, and I'm not the only one, just about every public official in the state is pretty upset about this one. And it's a public act that now prohibits school districts, municipalities, any public body from discussing and sharing factual information with voters up to 60 days before any election. So what that means is, for us, is if we had a millage renewal or any kind of a tax-related ballot question that we wanted to bring to you, we couldn't even talk about it with you by any means up until, for our 60-day window before that election. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm paying the most attention right before I'm going to vote, the weeks or months leading up to a vote. And I think it puts us at a real disadvantage. It puts you, the taxpayers, at a disadvantage when you can't have the factual information. I don't think it's right to leave it in the hands of constituency groups advocating yes or no only. The facts need to be out there too. Side note, we've always been bound by the law, which allowed us to only share facts, and that's what we have always done. So I'm very puzzled as to why this occurred. We're working very hard to see this repealed. I ask that you consider that position, that you understand what our issues are in this, and understand that this is going to make it hard for us to get information out to you going forward. And if you don't think that that's fair, I would urge you to take that up with your elected representatives as well. And so I want to talk about another famous person. This famous person is Thomas Edison, and I just read an article today out of the Smithsonian called 7 Epic Fails Brought to You by the Genius Mind of Thomas Edison. And why am I talking about Edison? Well, even Edison's epic fails were things that became ultimately very popular. He's fond of making the statement that I've not failed 10,000 times, I've successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work. And what this speaks to is one of our guiding principles that I want to touch on today in our school district. It's one of our core values that talks about we embrace a culture that embraces risk-taking. Understanding and believing that sometimes we can learn as much or more from failure than we can from success. And I can think of no better person, we all know, than Thomas Edison to really help us understand that. Our nation is a nation of innovators. We have tremendous numbers of patents that are produced in this country. And for that reason, we have been for some time the envy of the world when it comes to our education system. And I know that according to many rankings, we're not ranked as highly as some, and I think that there is some reason for concern about that, and that's a very important subject. But I also know that we are a nation of innovators, and our education system has produced students who know how to innovate. Over the last several years, I read always, and I trust you do too, because that's one of the ways we grow. I've read this book by Dr. Young Zhao, Catching Up or Leading the Way, which talks about how countries like China are sending students over to the U.S. because they really want to be part of our education system. They're trying to be more like us. Ironically, we're trying to be more like them. I've also read, and you're probably very familiar with this book by Daniel Pink, A Whole New Mind. It's been out for several years, probably since about 2007 or 8, talking about how the economy going forward, the world going forward, is going to require more than just memorization of the hard data and facts and concrete structures and rudiments, but it's also going to require a creative aspect to be very successful. So on the heels of that, those are old books I've read, and they're part of what formed our basis for talking about, as a school district, we should be concerned with not just getting things right, but what happens when we get something wrong, and how do we learn from that, because it's a lifelong skill that's going to serve us well. And so, having read A Whole New Mind and Catching Up or Leading the Way some years back, what we find in education and in many aspects of life is what is old is new again. These are ongoing important debates that we have to keep confronting. And one of them is, how do we maintain a school system of high standards, right, about the things that our students ought to be able to know, the rudiments, the fundamentals, and also have a system that allows some space for innovation and creativity and the things that are going to be important in the global society. And so we've been working using our guiding principles as part of that. And a book that I'm now reading to follow up on it is Most Likely to Succeed by Tony Wagner and Ted Dintersmith. There is also a film out on this book, but I'm looking forward to diving into this book more because it really talks about preparing our students for an innovation era. And how do we do that without throwing the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, when it comes to the things that we know are important in fundamental education as well. And I bring this up not just because of our guiding principle about risk-taking, but also want to talk about M-STEP. M-STEP is the new test that we took at the last school year and have just gotten the results back on. And it is replacing the MEP test, and it is supposed to be a test that measures higher level thinking than what the MEP previously did. This was the first test we've taken on computer, which was a big change for us, and it was a first test of this new type that we were taking, and we were anxious to see what our results were. And to be candid with you, when we got the results, we expected a little dip, and that's what we saw. And it was a bit of a concern to us because we want to make sure that we stay aligned to those results. We know that while those results are one snapshot in time, that if we're paying attention to both our fundamentals and creativity and the kind of things that are in our guiding principles, that's the sweet spot that we want to live in. And these are the tensions that we deal with as educators, and probably some of the tensions that you deal with as parents and as those working out in the business world. So one of the ways that we're kind of grappling with our results and asking ourselves, well, what do these results really mean? This test was really hastily put together. It is a brand new test. There are a lot more variables with a test like this than what we were used to with the MEP. So we're asking ourselves, how valid are these results, and what do we need to learn and adjust based on these results? So one of the ways we're working through that, this is the last book I'll bore you with, is a book called Coherence: The Right Drivers in Action for Schools, Districts, and Systems by Michael Fullen and Joanne Quinn. There's not a lot of brand new information in this. This is sort of the fundamentals of what we know about systems change, but it's put in a very clear format, not just about what not to do, but more about what we need to do. How do we make our system coherent and make our system prepare our students for the world of innovation that they're going to be needing to function in? And so I just wanted you to be aware, those results are out there. When they come back, we always question, we always ask ourselves, what can we learn from this information? And having said that, we realize that to optimize for test results sometimes comes at a cost with regard to innovation. We're always walking that line. But we want to make sure we're doing the best by our students, by your children, by making sure that we maintain a culture that has a healthy respect and regard for that which goes far beyond just basic standardized test results. And so with that in mind, I invite you to maybe check out some of those books, look forward to some more discussions, and we'll be sharing and reporting more as we learn and as we develop along the way. You should feel good that we always ask ourselves questions, that we never settle, that we never say, oh, we've got it covered. When we get new information, we always do that deep question ask, and I do the same with all of my staff, so that we're making sure that we stay right in the sweet spot where you want us to be and where we want to be. Thank you for your time and your attention, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon in person, or perhaps at the next version or edition of Ask Rob. Take care, everyone.